L'kuta Sichas Chelek Chaf, Sicha Vayishlach, Sicha Beis, Lili Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Kaltman. We are also learning L'schus, our dear friend Rabbi Yosef Shleima ben Risha, for a refuah Shleima ukreva. The topic of the Sicha is based on the pasuk that when Yaakov told Esav that I am heading to Seir and I'm going to travel slowly, we learn from this how to distance ourselves from a goy who we feel may be a danger to us on our journey. And we're going to learn various shittas, various approaches as to what the halacha is in this regard. We're going to see Rashi in the Gemara, we're going to see Rashi on Chumash, and we're going to see the shita of the Rambam as well. Isa b'Mishnah Masechta V'Dzara, the Mishnah says, "Le'yisyachid adam imohem itanachri shlifnei zeh b'Mishnah." A person should not seclude himself with a goy, which is being discussed in the Mishnah, because they are suspect for murder. So you shouldn't isolate yourself with them because we do not trust them. The Paskim explain that this applies to the earlier nations. Today, Goyim are not a suspect to this level. We will bring this up later in the Sikha, but the Paskim say that today there are rules and laws against murder, and there are consequences for it, and therefore this discussion in the Mishnah is not applicable in today as it was in the time of the Mishnah. Okay. The Gemara is mevair mefaret in them. The Gemara explains more cases where we see the precautions one should take from not being hurt by a goy. Yisrael that encounters a goy in his travels, should position him to his right side, so that way he has the strength of the right side to stop him if necessary. And then the Gemara continues. If the guy asked him where is he going, he should extend the way. We'll see in a moment what exactly that means. As Yaakov did to Esav, as we see in the pasuk, that Yaakov told Esav, until I will meet up with you in Seir. And then it says, the Yaakov went to Sukkot and not to Seir, seemingly. Rashi is mefarish, so Rashi explains this Gemara. Rashi mefarish the Gemara as derech she'asa Yaakov meint as erot Esav in gesagt mipnei sakanas nefashis as zachos is given itazay. Rashi explains, what does it mean to do what Yaakov did? That Yaakov said something to Esav that was not true because of his life was in danger. He said to Esav something that was not accurate. He told him he's going to Seir. And Yaakov went to Sukkot and not to Seir. So we see what Yaakov did, that Yaakov said something that was untrue to Esav. And from this the Gemara is learning a practical halacha for every yid. When a guy asks him where he is going, he tells him that not the actual place. He should extend the way. And Rashi explains, if he needed to travel one parsa, which is a length of space, he should tell him I'm traveling 2 parsois. Because it's possible that if the guy thinks he has more time, he'll wait until the second parsa to hurt him, to strike him. And the Yid will have already separated before the second parsa, and thus he will have saved his life. So Rashi teaches Garchiv lehaderach that it means to tell him a further destination than where he's actually traveling to, so that by the time the guy decides to hurt him, he will have already arrived at his destination, and went off the road, and will not be in danger from the guy. In Medrash Aber, Afin pasuk Adasher Ovid Ladeni Seira. On this same pasuk that Yaakov tells Esav, until I arrive, till I meet you in Seir, the Medrash says as follows: We checked We reviewed the entire Chumash. We don't find that Yaakov ever went to Har Seir, to Esav, during his lifetime. Is it possible that Yaakov was a man of truth, would deceive, would lie to Esav? But it must mean, what is this referring to? When is Yaakov going to come to Esav? La'asid Lavi, when Mashiach comes. As it says in the pasuk, that those who come to save the Yidden will ascend to Har Esav, which is Seir, and that happens when Mashiach comes. From dem Medrash Zetman, from this Medrash we conclude, as Yaakov hat Melachatchila gesagt, as Achwas is in ganzen Emes, that Yaakov never lied. He said something that was entirely true. Was a far correct Medrash for Matzano Shalach Yaakov Avinu Eitzel Eisel Arseir Meyama, which is why the Eis in the Medrash says we don't find this to ever happen, because Yaakov is speaking the truth, and therefore the Medrash is searching where did this actually happen. If they knew that Yaakov was saying something that wasn't true, they wouldn't say we searched the whole Chumash. Of course, you're not going to find it in the Chumash because Yaakov wasn't saying the truth. Yaakov was just protecting himself. But the fact that the Medrash goes and searches for it means that the Medrash is following the premise that Yaakov was saying the truth, and ultimately comes to the conclusion that it was true, because it's going to happen when Mashiach comes. So seemingly we have two ways to understand this. This dialogue, this exchange between Yaakov and Esav. You have the Gemara, and according to Rashi on the Gemara, that Yaakov was saying something that was untrue because of Sakanas Nefashis, and from this you can actually learn halacha to a Yid, that a Yid can say something that's untrue in order to save his life, whereas the Medrash accepts that Yaakov is saying the truth. So in Siv Beis, the Rebbe is going to suggest that maybe there's two different opinions here. Maybe there's a machlekes, and then the Rebbe is going to bring Rashi on Chumash and our parsha, where we will see that Rashi combines the two pirushim and the two approaches, that of the Gemara, that of the Medrash, and it's going to raise a question: how do you reconcile Rashi on Chumash and Rashi on the Gemara? Pashtus lernt men as a pirush from Gemara Anal, seine des Chalukas. Seemingly, we can learn that these two explanations of the Gemara, or the explanation of the Gemara and the explanation of the Medrash, seine des Chalukas, are conflicting opinions. According to the Gemara, Yaakov saw that his life was in danger. And therefore Yaakov had to tell him that he's going to say her. Though he did not intend to do so. According to the Medrash, Yaakov was not afraid of Esav. And therefore there's no reason for Yaakov to extend his destination and say he's going to Seir. And therefore we must say that when Yaakov says he's going to Seir, he means la'asid loving. As Rashi beperush Yalateira, after Pasuk Adash Rav Eladini Seira is mechaber beitei perushim. However, we find that Rashi and Chumash on this pasuk where Yaakov says to Esav, "Until I will meet you in Seir," Rashi combines both perushim. Rashi says as follows: Hirchiv le'aderech, he extended the way. He did not intend to go beyond Sukkos. Omar, he said, Im daiti lasas lida, if he plans to hurt me, Yamtin ad boi, actually he'll wait until I get to him to Seir. V'hu le'halach. And he didn't go to Seir, he went to Sukkos. Which up until here, it seems very similar to what the Gemara is saying. But then Rashi continues. And when is he going to go to Seir? In the times of Mashiach. Das heißt, euch der Pirush HaGemara, als Yaakov hat nicht gehabt bedeutet zu gehen kein Seir, und hat gesagt, soll ihm nicht tun kein Ra, that even according to the Gemara, that Yaakov did not intend to go to Seir. Even when Mashiach comes, that part doesn't get brought up in the Gemara. And Yaakov was only saying Seir in order to avoid being hurt by Esav. Stimmt mit dem, was der Medrash sagt, as Yaakov's Werte seine Vidya Metzias. But that could still be reconciled with what the Medrash says, that Yaakov's words are true. Even if you're going to touch in the Gemara, if you're going to follow like the Gemara, that Yaakov was afraid of Esav, and Yaakov was telling Esav a further destination than he was planning to go at the time, it still doesn't contradict the fact, or the Medrash says, that when Mashiach comes, Yaakov is going to meet up with Esav in Har Seir, is nit move on. So therefore now we have a question. If you say two different opinions, so fine, two different opinions. But here, there's no reason to create a machlokes, seemingly. It's possible that Yaakov was afraid of Esav, and therefore told him he's going to a further place, and he's still going to end up in that further destination when Mashiach comes. He's not moving, and therefore comes our question. Rashi learned that Yaakov gesagt emes und allein in der Fares begimar das von Irchiv der derech bei Yankivin lernt men arois as men soll sagen that der sheni amiti geht zu nitzel werden von Nachri. Rashi and Chumash is telling us that Yaakov said the truth. So how does Rashi and the Gemara learn from that it's okay, it's halachically permissible to say an untruth to be able to save oneself from the danger of a guy? In other words, if you follow the approach of Rashi and Chumash and use that in the Gemara, then you could say that Yaakov said something that was to avoid getting hurt by Esav, but it wasn't a lie. So how do you learn from that a Yid is allowed to lie in order to save himself from a guy? Mefarshim learn it. So Mefarshim have an approach as follows. Chotchman learned as a Rish von Yankivin. So Rabbi das Yaakov is midas midas emes. With the Medrash anal is madish da Yankov mit Yehoya. Is euch wenn hat gesagt der Loschen was Esav verstanden anders wie die Metzias danach is aber der Dibur gewinnen emeser. The Mefarshim said like this, that Yaakov was a truthful person. Yaakov represents emes, and therefore when he said he was going to Seir, he wasn't lying. He was misrepresenting the truth. He was telling Esav something that Esav would understand, that he's going right now to Seir. But really, in his mind, he intended that ultimately he's going to go to Seir when Mashiach comes. So the first we say that what Rashi is telling us is that even though Yaakov himself did say what was ultimately true, but nevertheless, just like Yaakov misrepresented the truth, so too a regular person that's not on the level of Yaakov is actually allowed to say an untruth in order to save themselves. So in other words, we are extending the limud from Yaakov to a regular person. As the Beshver has to learn. However, the Rebbe says this shot of the Mefarshim is difficult to learn. The Lashna Gemara is doch Yaakov le'asaderech kederech shasa Yaakov. The whole wording of the Gemara is that a Yid can do according to the halacha just the way Yaakov did it. As a Yaakov le'aderech, but Bakal Adam is there Zelber Derech when Yankivin. The Gemara is saying that the fact that Yarchiv Le'aderech, that a person should extend his destination, however we're learning that, has to be the same way that Yaakov did it. So how do you have, where's your source that it's okay to be lenient on this and actually say an untruth? That's our question on Rashi, on the Gemara. Or for that matter, on the Gemara itself, the way Rashi learns it. Okay, so we have two Pirushim. We have the Pirush for the Gemara and we have the Pirush for the Medrash on the Pasuk. Rashi combines both Pirushim, saying A, that Yaakov said to Esav he was going further than he was planning to go because he was afraid of him. But at the same time, he does say that it wasn't an untruth because ultimately Yaakov will be going there when Mashiach comes. And on this, the Rebbe asks, if there's a way to learn that Yaakov said the truth, then how does the Gemara, according to Rashi, learn that one is allowed to say an untruth, to save themselves, to say he's going to go 2 parsois, when really he's planning to go 1 parsa, when we're learning it from Yaakov, and Yaakov never said something that wasn't true. So in Siv Gimel, the Rebbe is going to give us a different understanding in what Rashi is saying, what it means when it says Yarchiv Le'aderech. Up until now, we understand Yarchiv Le'aderech. It means, as the Gemara says so, as Rashi and the Gemara says so, that if the person is planning to go 2 parsois, he should say, if a person is planning to go 1 parsa, he should say he's going 2 parsois. In Sif Gimel, the Rebbe is going to introduce a new understanding in Rashi and Chumash, and it's going to ask in that case, why does Rashi and Chumash and Rashi and Gemara say differently? And then the Rebbe will answer that in the next Sif. Wenn wir das verstehen, bei Ektem Abiyur, in dem, was Rashi sagt, Bechlal, Dominion, Hirchiv, Le'aderech, Chulu. To Lechera, that's a Yitur Lashon. First, we have to understand why Rashi and Chumash even says the words Hirchiv, Le'aderech. Seemingly, these words, the extended the way, or seems to be superfluous. As what given move when sagt, blois dem Hemshech. The Rashi would have made perfect sense had he just said the second part of Rashi. In other words, he would quote the pasuk, Ada Shalov Ovel Adeni Seira. Yaakov says, until I will meet my master in Seir. Then Rashi would explain, Omar, he said, why is he sending him to Seir? Im daiti lasis lido, that if Esav wants to hurt me, yamtin ad boi atzloi, he will wait for me to get to Seir. And in the end, Yaakov didn't go. And to begin with the words, Hirchiv le'aderech, seems like extra words. Their beer is in them. The beer in them is. So why does that? What's the explanation why Rashi adds the words Hirchiv le'aderech? Mit makdim sein dem Inyan for Hirchiv le'aderech by beginning, by prefacing these words that Yaakov was Hirchiv le'aderech. Macht Rashi klar. Rashi is clarifying. Gleich mit Chilas Perusha right in the beginning of his explanation. As Yaakov zogin ad asher ovel adeni seir. When Yaakov says these words, I'm going to meet you in Seir, is klal nit gewen kintiber biltem miti, was not an untruth at all. Their mit is nor Hirchiv le'aderech. All he was doing was expanding or broadening the way. What is the literal translation of Hirchiv? Der derech is given breiter, the way became broader or more expanded. What does it mean? Yaakov had nicht gemeint so far länger in dem derech. He wasn't lengthening as in extending the destination. As der mokim hilucha is weiter, wie be'emes gemeint that his destination is further than he had intended. Because then wollte gedav sagen herich lehaderech. Because then the right word would be herich. He extended. He made it longer. When he says hirchiv, no the arichas haderech is dieselbe. The destination, the length of the travel is the same. Not der derech wird sein breiter, but it's going to expand the journey. Wird doyer in mehrere man, it's going to take more time. Wird sein mit hefseikim she'is v'chulu, there's going to be stops, there are going to be delays. And that's what he means, Hirchiv le'aderech. The Yaakov told Esav, I'm going to Seir, I'm going on a very long journey, I don't know how long the journey is going to take. As we see it so clearly in the words, as Yaakov tells Esav, I will be traveling at a slow pace because of my cattle and because of the children. The travel is going to be slowly, with stopping more often, until ultimately he will arrive at Seir. And according to this understanding of Hirchiv le'aderech, that not that he was telling him a longer destination, a further destination, but he was just telling him that it's going to take me more time than you to get there. And according to this, we can understand as the siyum from Pirush Rashi Mashiach, that when Rashi ends, concludes that when is he going to go there to Seir in the time of Mashiach is not only not a contradiction, not a way to resolve the seeming contradiction that Mashiach is mefarish the Hirchiv le'aderech. When he says that he's going to go there when Mashiach comes, actually explains what he means. Hirchiv le'aderech. Der tachlis und ende von Archavas derech b'zayim Mashiach. The goal, the ultimate destination of this long journey is when Mashiach comes. Yaakov is telling Esav, I'm going on a very long journey, a journey that's not going to end until Mashiach comes, and I have no idea how long this journey is going to take. So you go up ahead and don't wait for me. And that's what Rashi sagt, and the fact that Rashi adds the words that Yaakov only intended to go to Sukkos, which implies that he's saying, like the Gemara says, that he was giving him a further destination than he was planning to go, is nit kavanah as Yaakov had gemeint to gain bis Sukkos und nit weiter. This does not mean that Yaakov was telling Esav that he's going to go till Sukkos and not going to go further than that. Because das is the chepech hamafurish bekasav. Because that would contradict the pasuk. As is the nochagang in Shechem v'chulu, that after Sukkot, Yaakov traveled to Shechem right away, 2 psukim later in this parshas Vayishlach. So it wasn't, as we understand from the Gemara, that he was planning to go to Sukkot, and in the end he said he's going to Seir, and he only went to Sukkot. No, he was telling him I'm going to Seir. That is my long journey that I'm on. The pasuk says that he went to Sukkot. Near the istike halicha van Esav gegangen ladarke Seira und angekommen in Vayeshev. The fact that Esav was going now to Seir and Yaakov was also traveling now is Yaakov died to the lechas nor bis Sukkos. Yaakov had in mind at this point in time to go just to Sukkos. Unasa Sukkos, and then he went to Sukkos. And stayed there for quite some time. As Rashi says explicitly, Yaakov was there for 18 months. But was only a stop on the way. It was only a stop along the journey. So when Rashi says that he told him, I'm going on a very long journey, and he only went till Sukkot, meant that now he was going, the first leg of the journey would be till Sukkot, and then he was going to take a break in Sukkot, and then continue the journey with an unknown arrival time. So this is the Rebbe's pshat of Rashi and Chumash. Not that he was giving a further destination than he was planning to go. That, says the Rebbe, would have to be herich le'aderech. By saying hirchiv le'aderech, Rashi is saying that Yaakov told Esav, I'm going on a very long journey. Meaning to say, he gave him his destination. He didn't tell him a destination that was further than he was planning to go, but he did tell him, I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get there, because I'm going to have to make a bunch of stops along the way. That's the pshat in Rashi and Chumash. So in that case, we have to understand. As the pirush when Yarchil as aderech is im ayotzarich leilech ad parsa. Yomer lebeis parsois and itzarich leilech with the anamidas nitamas. So why does Rashi learn differently in Gemara? No, the Gemara doesn't say what Yarchil aderech means. The Gemara says Yarchil aderech derech shasa Yankiv. That a person should be marchiv the derech as Yaakov did. So if we have Chumash, and if Rashi and Chumash is telling us such a beautiful explanation, that it meant to say that he's going to expand the journey, meaning to say that it's going to take longer than he would expect. He doesn't know how long it's going to take. Why can't Rashi say the same thing on the Gemara and say that it means that he should broaden or expand the journey and not say something that's not true by telling him a destination that he's not planning to reach? And since the halacha in the Gemara is being learned from Yaakov, is therefore moving canal as we're not just saying that this is what a person should do, but we're saying that Yaakov did this. How does the way we understand Yaakov's actions in the Gemara fit with the way we understand Yaakov's actions in the Rashi and Chumash? In Siftal, the Rebbe is going to ask another question where we see a seeming contradiction between the Gemara and Rashi and Chumash, where the question is going to be, was Esav a definite danger or not? Was Yaakov certain that Esav was going to hurt him, and therefore he was taking he was avoiding being with Esav, or was Yaakov concerned but not certain that Esav would hurt him? That's where we're going to see two conflicting implications in the Gemara versus Rashi and Chumash. We also have to explain the difference that we see in Rashi and Chumash versus Rashi and the Gemara. Rashi says that if a person tells the guy, I'm traveling 2 parsois, even though he's only planning to go 1 parsa, Rashi says as follows, quote, hopefully, possibly, the guy will wait to strike him until the 2nd parsa. From them Lashon is move on. From these words, it is understood as that we accept that the guy will certainly strike him. By telling him the further destination, that he might delay the striking until the 2nd parsa. And since the halacha Yarchiv le'aderech is being learned from Yaakov, this would imply that Yaakov was in the same situation. That Yaakov was certain that Esav would want to strike him or hurt him, and therefore he said, if I give a further destination, maybe Esav will wait until the end of the journey, or close to the end of the journey. But when Rashi explains it in Chumash, when he says that Hirchiv le'aderech, is Rashi medayik, but Rashi specifies. Omar, Yaakov said, Im daite lasis lido, if he has in mind to hurt me, Yamtin ad boi yatzli, he'll wait until I arrive to his place. The Haino is the Bavornus is venala suffik, implying that Yaakov's precautions that he was taking was only based on a doubt, whether he's going to hurt me or not. There's no certainty here that Esav is going to hurt him. And seemingly, this question was it certain that Esav would hurt Yaakov, or was it not? My l'chayra has a halachic relevance. Are you allowed to use this approach, this untruth, that we're traveling further than we're planning, when there's only a doubt, only a concern that the guy is going to hurt you, or in the case where you don't know for sure if the guy is going to hurt you, maybe you have to at least try to find a different solution before jumping to saying something that's not true. So we have here two lashonos, two versions from Rashi on Gemara versus Rashi on the Chumash, which have two different implications. One implies that it's a certainty that the guy is going to strike, which means that it was a certainty in Yaakov's mind that Esav was going to hurt him, versus Chumash and Rashi on Chumash that implies that it was a concern, but it wasn't a certainty. So which one is it, and what is the halachic ramification that we take from these differences? So in other words, just to summarize where we're holding right now, what we're trying to understand first of all is, since there is a way to understand what happened with Yaakov, that Yaakov did not say an untruth, that Yaakov was saying the truth, because he was going to come to Seir. And the way we would understand that is by saying that Hirchiv le'haderech doesn't mean that he told him a later destination, but Hirchiv le'haderech means that he told him it's going to be a very long journey. I don't know when the journey is going to end. So why does Rashi on Shas not teach this Yarchiv le'haderech and instead says that Yaakov did something that was not true, especially? So how could we learn from how could Rashi teach that Yaakov said something that was untrue, and how can we learn la halacha that it's okay to say an untruth if maybe that's not what happened over there? And the other question is, why does Rashi imply that on Chumash, imply that Yaakov was not certain whether he would be hurt by Esav, and Rashi in Gemara applies that he was certain that he was going to be hurt by Esav? And we will see in the answer that these two questions are actually going to answer each other. Hey, is there beer bazah? First, the Rabbi says like this: it's been discussed many times. Sai bepirushi ala Torah and sai bepirushi ala Shas is Rashi mefaras b'derech pshat. Whether Rashi is teaching Gemara, whether Rashi is teaching Chumash, he's taking the approach of pshat. Nor, however, bepirushi ala Torah is basi the Shul Mikra. Where Rashi is explaining Chumash, Rashi follows the simple, most basic, most understanding of the Chumash, of the words of the Torah. When Shas is a mefarish leiten derech pshat von der Gemara. When Rashi teaches Shas, he's explaining the simple understanding, the basic understanding of the Gemara. Even if the Gemara will contradict the Pshuta Shel Mikra. In other words, Chumash can have many layers. Pshat, Remesh, Drus, Sod. So not always does the Gemara follow the Pshat of Chumash. Sometimes the Gemara has a Drash on Chumash, or a Remesh from Chumash, etc., etc. Now, when Rashi comes to explain Chumash, Rashi goes to the Pshat of Chumash. When Rashi goes to explain Gemara, Rashi goes to the Pshat of the Gemara, even if that is inconsistent with the Pshat of Chumash. So now, basically, to understand the differences between the two Rashis, we have to realize that Rashi is teaching the Gemara. Rashi in Gemara is teaching the Gemara. Rashi in Chumash is teaching the Chumash. And therefore, there's going to be differences between the two. The Inyan Anal in Gemara is B'amshich. In the Sugya as Nachmas and Chashudim Asfichas Damim. This discussion in the Gemara, what a Yid should do if a guy asks him where he's going, is in the Sugya, in the subject of the fact that Goyim are suspect for murder. But the Pashtus Maintis, as B'shas Anachri Frek Le'echan Eilech. So based on that, we would presume that if a guy asks a Yid, where are you traveling? And it's coming from a person who is already suspect for murder, is a siman of the the question, where are you going, already indicates his intention that he's going to try to hurt him. And we see the same implication in the Gemara's words. The Gemara emphasized that he was a Rasha. The fact that Yaakov changed what he with his words, what he was planning to do is given their father said because he was dealing with Esav, who was a Rasha. Because he was a Rasha, to Yaakov it was clear that he intended to hurt Yaakov. So the Gemara is basically discussing a case when there is a presumption of certainty. I guess presumption and certainty is not the same thing. So let's rephrase that. When the Yid has a certainty, feels it is certain, and Yaakov felt because Esav was a Rasha that there was a certainty that he was going to strike him. But whereas when you look in Chumash, is from Sipur Aksuvim nitmuchach as Esav had gezucht zu ton Yaakov and Hara. From reading the Psukim, there's no compelling evidence that Esav was planning to hurt Yaakov. Adarabba, on the contrary, only with different pasuk Shabbos Cholasin. If you go back to the pasuk at the beginning of this story, Esav ran towards him. He hugged him, he embraced him, he kissed him. Is der ganze Hemshech Hadibur. And the whole conversation with Yaakov is one of friendship. And especially the very statement that Yaakov was responding to, let us travel together, says it actually, Esav was offering Yaakov a favor, that he's going to go with him and he's going to help him out, he's going to protect him. But mainly does not mervi achshash. So therefore, the fact that that Esav is going to hurt Yaakov is only a chashash, is only a concern, not a certainty. Since for many years Esav was an enemy of Yaakov, Yaakov wanted an extra precaution. If Esav ultimately wants to hurt me, I have to protect myself. So the scenario, the way the Gemara understands it, and the scenario, the way Rashi and Chumash understands it, are two different scenarios. In the Gemara, the understanding is that the guy, and in this case Esav, is planning to hurt the Yid. In Rashi and Chumash, the understanding is that Esav and Yaakov have made up, they've made peace. It's just Yaakov is a little bit concerned that the past might come back up, and therefore he wants to take an extra precaution. And now we understand by Rashi and Chumash, and Rashi and the Gemara have two different explanations. When you're talking about the Esav who's a Rasha or a guy that is suspect for murder, if he asks you where are you going, this shows his intent to hurt him. A matzah from sakana, therefore it puts him in a situation of danger. And we use any method, even telling an untruth to save oneself from this dangerous situation. If he had to travel just one parsa, he should say, I'm traveling 2 parsas. But the mitkin upstuping the sakana, thus he can delay the danger. As a noch, with apart milak, parsa shnia, so then the guy should wait until the second parsa. But if and this person will leave the road even before that second parsa, and thus he will save himself. But according to Psudish al Mikra, it wasn't a certainty. It was only a concern. Will he? It's enough to say, listen, I'm traveling a long way. I don't know when I'm going to get there, but you don't have to actually lie to him and to mislead him. And therefore, Rashi and Chumash has a different explanation. And with this, we answered our question. Our original question was, why does Rashi on the Gemara teach that Yaakov was saying a lie, and why does he teach different than Chumash? The answer is very simple. Rashi, there was no definite danger here. So Rashi says that what Yaakov did is he said something to mislead Esav. So Esav shouldn't stay with him. So he told him, I'm going on a very, very long journey. I don't know when the journey is going to end. And that way Esav should just go away. Whereas in the Gemara, where we're accepting that the danger is a definite danger, over there, Rashi says, a person should say an untruth, because since the sakana is certain, therefore you have to use any method to save yourself, even saying an untruth. So Ad Kan is the reconciliation of the two Rashis, Rashi and Chumash and Rashi and the Gemara, and it's very, very clear so far that the Rashi is telling us that when the danger is definite, you're even allowed to lie. When the danger is not definite, you should try other methods, such as instead of telling the guy a destination that is not actually where you're planning to go. Siv Zayin and on, we're going to now we're going to introduce the Rambam, and we're going to see, we're going to learn and understand Pshat in the Rambam based on this Chiddush of the Rebbe in the Pshat in Rashi. Based on the way the Rebbe teaches Rashi, that Hirchiv Le'aderech means not that he extended the destination, but that he broadened the journey or expanded the journey, we will now understand the Rambam as well. From some of the incredible ideas, wonderful ideas that we can derive from Rashi. Late them bira now of Rashi's lost Hirchiv Le'aderech. According to this explanation in Rashi's words, Hirchiv Le'aderech, as nit herich angeben nekamokim was as weiter wieder art woman at it's again. That doesn't mean that he herich, that he gave a further destination that he was planning to go to, nor mizmarchiv them derech gufa, but we're just expanding the journey. We can also explain the shita of the Rambam in this halacha. And these are the words of the Rambam. If the guy asks him where is he going, Yarchiv Le'aderech. He should be marchiv the derech as Yaakov did to Esav, as it says in the pasuk, until I will arrive with you or to you to my master in Seir. Is nit move on. The Rambam is doch a sefer von halachas. The Rambam is a sefer of halachas, a sefer wo die halachas an klar is gebracht zu wissen wie seit zu finden mit sich bepelen meise. A sefer where the halacha has to be written out very clearly, very explicitly, so that the person should know what he should actually do. Up the Rambam was es meinen die Werte Yarchiv Le'aderech. Why does the Rambam not explain what Yarchiv Le'aderech means? As the Mefarshim of the Gemara do, the Rashi, Rabbi Nachananel, also the Mechaber in Shulchan Aruch, sagt din border. It says very clearly to Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch means a set table. You have to know what to do. So he says, the guy asked him where he's going. If you have to go one parsah, you should tell him, I'm going 2 parsahs. So we see in Shulchan Aruch, he does explain very clearly. The Rambam doesn't say what he means. Why doesn't the Rambam say these words? That's the Rebbe's question on the Rambam. The Rambam says Yarchiv Le'aderech and doesn't explain what that means. Now Yarchiv Le'aderech is the words of the Gemara. So the Rambam is quoting the Gemara. But the Gemara has Rashi or Rabbi Nachananel or the Ran or the Mefarshim that explain to us what does it mean Yarchiv Le'aderech. So why does the Rambam not explain? So there's one suggestion here. As the Das Rambam is Yarchiv Le'aderech Chil Tzvei Inyanim. That the Rambam holds that Yarchiv Le'aderech includes 2 different things. One, the Yarchiv Vatzitzich Nart zum Dibur. Tzitzich nit Nart zum Dibur. Was men darf zog in dem Nachri. That number 1, there are the words that you tell the guy, I'm going to this further destination, then he's actually planning to go. But maybe these Mefarshim say that it doesn't just mean a bedibur, that he should tell him a further destination. No, it also means in action. Al derech verevach tasimu ben eder leider, bedarf sich behaderech der weiteren von dem Nachri. That it means he should expand the way, that he should distance himself from the guy. They shouldn't travel together. That not only you should tell him I'm going to a further destination, but he shouldn't travel together. Just like what Yaakov told his servants that they should keep a space between the various different the flocks that Yaakov was sending as a gift to Esav. Similarly, Yarchiv Loi means he should open a space between him and the guy. And this will actually help understand a word in the Rambam. The Rambam says, as it says, and the Rambam doesn't say that Yaakov said until I will come to Seir, but it says shenemar, as the pasuk says, because he's implying not just to what Yaakov said, but to what Yaakov did. The Yaakov also kept a distance between them. Oh, but in Sukkah, was das Gadol, says the Rebbe, this pshat is number 1, it's a big deichak. It's very difficult to say this. The Rebbe references in the Ha'ara that in the Gemara, there's 2 stories, which we're going to bring up later in the Sikha, that imply that Yarchiv Loi means a later destination and doesn't mean to not travel together. So to say that he says Yarchiv le'aderech and he means two different things, including something that the Gemara that seems very, very different than the Gemara's implication, is a deicher gadol. But in addition to that, is der Inyan as geendik bederech darf man sich verweiten von anachri. That when you travel, you should keep your distance from someone, from a guy who is suspect for murder. The Ram already said, you shouldn't travel with them. Is the farma gewarte als Yarchiv le'aderech is eichlet in Ram gemeint der Dibur. So it becomes very clear that when Rambam says Yarchiv le'aderech, he means in words. That when each guy asks him, where are you going? You should tell him, I'm going to a further destination than you're actually planning to go. So if it's very clear what the Rambam means, why to us, why doesn't the Rambam explain it? Why doesn't the Rambam say very clearly that if he wants to go, he's planning to go 1 parsa, he should tell him, I'm going 2 parsas. There are 3 more questions or nuances that we find in the Rambam. Aleph, the Rambam bringt noch nur dem Pasuk ad asher ovel adeni seira und nicht dem zweiten Pasuk, was bringt sich in Gemara of Yaakov Nasa Sekesa. The Gemara brings 2 psukim. Pasuk number 1, that Yaakov said to Esav, I'm going to Seir. Pasuk 2, Yaakov went to Sukkos, and with that proves that he was only planning to go to Sukkos, and he told him, I'm going to Seir. Now the Rambam brings the pasuk about Seir, but doesn't bring the pasuk about Sukkos. The whole raya that Yaakov was extending his destination is their fun. From the fact that Yaakov went not to Seir, but to Sukkos. And the Rambam is mashed with the pasuk, and the Rambam omits the pasuk. He doesn't bring the raya. The Rambam is only bringing a pasuk by Yaakov saying he's going to Seir, but the whole raya is missing a piece. The whole raya only works if you know the word that Yaakov didn't go to Seir. Question 1. Beis, in Gemara is the Lashon Kederach She'asa Yaakov. When the Rambam is Meshana and Shraib Kederach She'hirchiv Yaakov. The Gemara says as Yaakov did. The Rambam says as Yaakov extended or expanded. It doesn't say the word She'asa. What is the implication in that change? Gimel, in Gemara is the Lashon Yaakov Avinu Le'esav Rasha. The Gemara refers to Yaakov as Avinu and to Esav as the Rasha. Und der Rambam is mashmit die Tearim und schreibt Yaakov le'Esav. The Rambam omits these titles and it just says Yaakov and Esav. Tes. Al pi anal bebiur pirush Ashi Elatera. So in Sif Tes, the Rabbi is going to answer these questions on the Rambam by saying that the Rambam holds like Rashi on Chumash. That Hirchiv le'aderech doesn't mean a further destination. It means to expand, to broaden the journey, the travel time. And then it'll fit, then it'll explain why he doesn't say to go 2 parsais, because he doesn't, it's not what he means. He means he should yarchiv le'haderech. It means literally he should extend or expand the travel time. And also, and as we'll see, it'll answer almost all of our questions on the Rambam. According to what we said earlier, the way we explained what Rashi is saying, Rashi and Chumash, we can say that the Rambam holds, this is what it means when it says Yarchiv le'aderech by every yid, when the Gemara says it or not, and the Rambam passes it la'alocha. He should broaden, he should expand the journey that he's going on, that it'll take a lot of time until he gets to his destination, which means to say that the Rambam holds that to extend the journey means in time, not in distance. Because of this, the Nachri will give up his thought to do bad, because he doesn't know how long the journey is going to take. In other words, if he wants to, he's going to go to his destination. He's going to wait at the destination to ambush him, to hurt him. But since he doesn't know how long it's going to be, after a while or even right away, he's going to give up. So once we understand that that's Rashi's understanding of these words, we can say that the Rambam holds the same thing. That Yarchiv le'aderech means to delay, to give him an indefinite amount of time of travel. And that's what the Rambam says, as Yaakov extended or expanded to Esav, the Archavas Haderech by Yaakovin is bestanden in sein Zogin ad asher ovel adeni seira. What did Yaakov do? According to this understanding, he said, as es wird gedeuren an unbestimmtes Zman, he told him there is an unclear amount of time how long it's going to take me to get there. Was von dem lernt man ab. As jeder read darf sagen, bei Eifen, derech. And from this we learn that every you should do the same thing. You should say, I don't know when I'm going to get there. Was in dem in Archavas Haderech is in the pasuk v'yakunos. And in this detail, if you're just expanding the travel time, then it doesn't matter where Yaakov ultimately stopped off on the way that it was in Sukkos. And therefore the Rambam omits the pasuk about Sukkos, because the Rambam is only telling you that you should expand the travel time, not the travel distance. And therefore, where Yaakov stopped, the next stop that it was in Sukkos, is irrelevant. Und darüber ist der Rambam euch maß mit die Werte Yankov Avinu le'Esav Arasha. And therefore the Rambam takes out the words that Esav was a Rasha. Weil das Rambam is, als das was Yaakov hat sich bewahren durch Hirche von Esav, is nicht, weil ist gewinn sicher Esav Arasha mit dem Tanara. And just like we said in Sivav, that this approach of Rashi is because Rashi is accepting that we don't know for certain that Esav is going to hurt Yaakov. And therefore the Rambam, following the same approach, takes out the word Harasha, because we're not following the premise that Esav was a Rasha and certainly going to hurt Yaakov. At that time, Esav was showing brotherhood to Yaakov. Now, as we said in Sivav, with the way Rashi learns it on Chumash, it was only an extra precaution that Yaakov was taking. So if we were to look at the Rambam, we can understand the Rambam, that the Rambam holds like Rashi, and therefore he doesn't explain that you should give a further destination than you had intended. He says, that means that just like Yaakov told Esav, I don't know how long this journey is going to take, that's what a Yid should do as well. He should delay or extend the travel time, not necessarily the travel distance. And that's why he doesn't add the pasuk about Sukkos, because if it's about time, not distance, then where Yaakov was traveling, where Yaakov traveled is not relevant, and therefore Yaakov uses the words. The Rambam doesn't use the words Harasha because we're following the approach that we don't know for certain that Esav was going to hurt Yaakov. The Rebbe now asks a question on this approach. Now, maybe Rashi on Chumash, it's not really a question because Rashi is looking at Chumash. But the Rambam, who's basing his halacha on the Gemara and is obviously teaching these words Yarchiv le'aderech into the Gemara, we have a question on that. In the Gemara, after this din, that if the guy asks him where he's going, he should extend the way. Bring the Gemara zwei Meises von welches is muchach von lechere mefurish, as the Pirush von Yarchiv is the Pirush anal von Rashi Lashas. The Gemara brings two stories which make it very clear that the Pirush of Yarchiv is as Rashi on the Gemara teach, that it means to extend the destination, and not as we're trying to teach now that Yarchiv means to extend the travel time. And these are the words of the Gemara. There's a story with the Talmid of Rabbi Akiva who were traveling to Chziv. And listim, they encountered robbers. The robbers said, where are you traveling? They said, we're going to Akka. And when they got to Chziv, they left the road and they went to Chziv, which is what their actual destination was. So they were asked, whose students are you? We are students of Rabbi Akiva. They were told, Asher Rabbi Akiva, Talmidav, praised is Rabbi Akiva and his students, who never encountered someone to hurt them. The Gemara brings a second story, a very similar story. Rav Menashe was traveling to Beiturta, Pogo Beganvi. He encountered robbers. And there's a similar story that he told him he's going to a further destination, and then when he got to his destination, he exited the road and he was saved from being robbed or hurt by the Ganvim. The pastors come in the Maisas and Gemara al Tzraya ve'chacha from Meiser av Tzfridik and Din. Seemingly, these stories are being brought as a proof from an actual story to this din. That the din was, if you're asked where you're going, you should give a further destination. And we see from the story that the fact that they gave a later destination, a further destination, saved them. And he said something that wasn't true. As he gave Lamakim from a weiter Weg, he said that they're going to a further destination, when in truth they were going to a closer destination. Kämen doch nicht lernen, als Jarchen in Gemara ist Kanal, als sagt ihm nicht liegen, durch Verlängen in dem Derech weiter wie wird gehen, nur verbreitet bleibt selber Derech mit Shia Bisman. So you can't say that Yarchiv in the Gemara means to just delay the time, to say that it's going to take a longer time, when you see very clearly that the Gemara is understanding that it means to give a further destination, even though it's not true. So how does the Rambam understand this Gemara if very clearly from the Gemara we see these two stories that show that Yarchiv means to give a further destination? So we have to understand this by understanding this Gemara a little bit deeper. Rashi, and over here Rashi means Rashi al Shas. Und der Rambam, der mechulik in der Agdoras asakana for an Eden mitzad nachri v'shal lechanelach. They dispute how do you define this sakana, the danger, for a yid who was asked by the goy, where are you going? Men can just learn of Sveifana because there's two approaches, there's two ways that we can understand it. Either das is in selben Gede sakana v'difridik edinim anal Gemara, that it's the same level of danger as the previous things discussed in the Gemara. It's just another example of something that could pose a danger to a traveling yid. Or maybe, as the Rebbe is going to explain, because the guy asked him where he's going, this is a new category, and in danger, it's a higher danger level. And the Rebbe explains, because of the fact that goyim in general are suspect for murder, because of that, there are a number of different dinim how a yid should protect himself. Number one, for example, he shouldn't seclude himself with them. Number two, if he encounters someone on the road, he should leave him. He should keep him on his right side, so he should have the strength of the right hand side to be able to stop him if he wants to hurt him. If they're going up or down on a mountain or something like that, he should never position himself below the guy, because then he's in a position of vulnerability, etc. As the Gemara continues to describe various different precautions that he should take so that he shouldn't end up being hurt by the guy, because we generally suspect the guy to want to hurt the yid. But what about the case where the guy asks the yid where he's going to go? Kemen Zakim. So you could say it in two ways. Aleph, al derech says in the din was kommt gleich beim Shachal Zen Gemara, shale lehechanelech. The same thing is in the case where the guy asked the yid where he's going. Das is noch a matziv bavelchin ha'id darf sich bavoren von nachri. So another situation where a yid should protect himself from a guy, mitzadem kloletik in chadav nachri, because of the general concern, a suspicion over a guy that he wants to hurt the yid. So the fact that he asked him is just another example. Just like you would say, if they're going up the mountain and the guy is higher on the mountain than the yid, then the yid is in a vulnerable situation. Similarly, if the guy asks the yid, where are you going? It's a vulnerable situation. But there's another way of looking at this. The fact that he asked him where he's going is different. More severe than the previous dinim, which is relying on the approach that in general a guy is suspect for murder. But the fact that he asked him where he's going is a clear proof as der nachri bifrat that this specific guy has in mind to hurt the yid. Der mitvas afrekt leichan heilig by asking where is he going. He goes out of the category of being suspect and goes into the category of being a certain danger. So these are two ways that you could look at it. When Shali Lehechan Heilig, is he just giving another example of a danger, or is he elevating the danger level? Is he elevating the danger level and going into a certain danger because he asked him, he approached him, he encountered him, and he actually opened up and said, "Where are you going?" Did he, by those words, reveal to the Yid that the Yid is in danger? Before we get to how this fits into the Rashi or the Rambam, in Sif Yud Beis, the Rebbe clarifies that this idea that Shah Le'Leichan Hailech might be different than a regular case of sakana might actually have a relevance in today's practical halacha. V'yesh leimar. As einer for the nafkamina lahalacha zwischen die zwei Eifanim is that one of the halachic relevances would be the das aposkim as Bizman says and nacham einer gilam kachas shvichas damim. The poskim that say that nowadays that nacham are not common or commonly a suspect for murder. The Adirabba on the contrary, makin v'einshin chiyuv misa al retzeach. In today's day and age, they punish or sometimes even the death penalty for murder, and therefore they are not considered suspect for murder in today's day and age. And therefore the isur, the prohibition to seclude oneself with a guy, does not apply in the same way. This would raise the question, is there din in falfun shali in the case of the guy asking the yid where he's going? According to the first approach, that the din of Yarchiv Le'aderech is because of the general suspicion. In today's day, when they are not suspect for murder, then that would remove the suspicion, even if he asked him where he's going. We don't have to take these extra precautions. But if you follow the second approach, as that by asking him where he's going, he elevates the danger level to a certain danger. That even he would have to take the precaution of Yarchiv Le'aderech, because the whole heter of today is only for the general suspicion. But once the guy took himself out of the general suspicion and went into the gather of Bari Hazeka, then you have to do, even today, in today's day, you have to do whatever it takes to keep yourself safe. So let's go back. So that's a sort of a parenthetically speaking, that this idea that Shali Leheichan Hailech might elevate the danger level might actually have a practical relevance in today's halacha. Let's go back now to Rashi and Rambam. But now that we understand that there's two ways of understanding the Shali Leheichan Hailech, do we say that it's just another example of the general danger, or is there a certain danger because he almost clarified that he wants to hurt him? This is the machlekes, this is the dispute between Rashi and the Gemara and the Rambam's understanding. Rashi and the Shas holds that by the fact that the guy asked the Yid, where are you going, this makes it clear that the guy wants to hurt the Yid, and therefore there is a separate din. When Rashi learned us up from Pshat Gemara, and Rashi learns us from the Pshat of the Gemara. When you look at the context of the Gemara, the Gemara continues with these two stories where they encountered listim or ganvi. Listim are robbers, ganvi are another way of another form of listim are probably bandits, ganvi is robbers. But either way, where they are already certainly dangerous people, they're midland. The Gemara and from this Rashi derives that when the Gemara tells the story of the din of Shali Leheichan Hailech, it's saying that with this the guy elevated the danger level to a certain danger, like a listim, a bandit, or a ganvi, or a robber that is actually known to be a danger. Therefore, Rashi learns that you have to protect yourself in any way possible. Not just the words that might cause the guy to stop to think that he doesn't want to hurt the Yid because it's going to take too long. You have to very clearly mislead him, confuse him, to tell him that you're going to a further destination than you're actually going, because hopefully the guy will wait until the second parsa to hurt him, and he will exit before that. Und das lernt man auch, Yaakov in Esav Rasha Kanal Barucha, and this will be what Yaakov did, Esav Rasha. That doesn't say Shehirchiv, that he just, which would imply that he just expanded, he just delayed the time, but he actually told him something he actually did something. He actually went to Sukkot instead of going to Seir. That was Yaakov actually did something different. Kanal Baruch, as we said earlier, notice, remember, the Rambam didn't say Kederach She'asa. The Rambam said Kederach She'hirchiv, because the Rambam is learning that he didn't actually stop at Sukkot. He actually just told him that that it's going to take him a long time. He didn't tell him a further destination and then actually go to the earlier destination. We're still in Rashi's approach. Rashi understands that Shalom Leich is a greater danger. Rashi knows this from the fact that the Gemara brings these stories of Listim and Ganvi, and therefore Rashi says that Yarchiv Le'aderech means he should actually lie to the guy and tell him he's going to a different destination, so as to save him. In the and this is actually proven from the stories as that actually there was a real danger. And this Eitzah where they told him a further destination, it actually worked. They exited earlier before they had a chance to hurt them, and they were saved. That's Rashi's approach. Rashi and Shas. The Rambam holds, as he bowed the din shal kum to hemshel to the Friedrich Dinim in Gemara, that because the din of the guy asking the Yid where he's going is part of the sugya of the previous dinim, is there fun muchach as the din is bedem in sein to say. Rambam holds that from the fact that the Gemara includes this din with the previous dinim, it has the same category as them. That even when the guy asked the Yid where he's going, it's still not a certain hezek, as is nor noch a prat in dem din kloli for nochrim chashudim osvichas damim. It is only a detail in the general din of goyim that are suspect for murder. When the fire learned that Rambam the Eitzah to is Yaakov Leisav shenemer adar shalavia din isira. Rambam learns that the Eitzah is to expand the journey as Yaakov did for Esav, when she said, I'm going to Seir, breiter in dem Weg in welchen gate, to expand the journey that he's taking. Kanal Baruch, as we explained earlier at length in Rashi and Chumash, nid sagen dem Mokum where gate eats, not to say where he's going, nor entfrin as hat a breite Weg, to say that I have a very, very long journey. Geht sich zamen bederech. Is going to be delayed on his journey until he comes to his ultimate destination. And that will avoid the danger, because realizing that the journey is such a long journey, the guy is going to give up on waiting for him. Und das ist bedugmat zum Matze bei Yaakov and Esav, who says nit kivem b'shas meister body as ekim mitzad Esav. And this is similar to the situation of Yaakov and Esav, where according to the Rambam's approach, he doesn't say harasha, as we said before. The Rambam is taking the approach that the danger was not certain. Since given fakir dibur shel chibu v'chulu kanal barucha, Esav and Yaakov were speaking friendly words, and therefore there was no reason to actually lie. There was no need to actually lie. All you had to do is take an extra precaution by telling him the journey is a very long journey, and the guy will give up waiting for him. Das was die Gemara bringt, der Nacht die zwei Sepurim Manal. And then how does the Rambam explain these stories? The stories seem that Yarchiv Le'aderech is talking about a real danger, and you have to actually lie in order to save yourself. So according to Rambam, the fact that the Gemara is das Rambam din noisef. According to the Rambam, the Gemara is introducing a new din. According to Rashi is Pshat of the Gemara. According to Pshat in the Gemara, it makes the most sense to say that these stories are supporting this din that we just brought. The Rambam does not limit it to Pshat in the Gemara. So the Rambam could learn that the Gemara is now introducing a new din. If the danger is certain, like by bandits or robbers, is there din then the din is not to expand the time of the journey as you would do by a regular guy who asked you where you're going. In this case, if the danger is certain because you're dealing with listim or with ganvi, then you tell them a further destination for them from where he is going for actually going. And hopefully the guy will wait until the later part of the journey, and in the meantime the Yid will finish the journey. Now, order 58, the Rebbe adds, and in that case, why does the Rambam not bring this halacha? So he says, possibly, one can answer that since the Gemara didn't bring this as a halacha befedish, it just brought it as a story, so the Rambam doesn't include it as halacha, but certainly the Rambam would derive that from the Gemara, that the stories are introducing a new category, a new scenario that is not the case of Sha'al Elehechan Helech. So with this, we've concluded also the understanding of the Rambam, that the Rambam holds, like Rashi on Chumash, that Yarchiv Le'aderech means that he should delay the time of the journey, not necessarily extend the destination. And the reason why the Rambam takes this approach is because the Rambam holds that Esav was not an immediate not a certain danger. In the Pashtus HaGemara is mashma that there is a certain danger, and there is an extra, and therefore you're supposed to extend the destination. So the Rebbe explains, no, it's machlekes how you understand the Gemara. According to Rashi, by Sha'al Elehechan Helech, there's a new elevated danger, and therefore you have to take every precaution, including saying something that's not true. According to the Rambam learns that it's the same category as the other things, which is that's a general suspicion on a goy, but this is not a case of a certain danger, and therefore you shouldn't necessarily say an untruth to save yourself. If you can get away with just delaying the time and distracting the goy, then you should take that approach as Yaakov did with Esav. He told him, I don't know when I'm going to get to my destination. And then the Rebbe says we can explain this on a deeper level. Since you do as B'shas land, that is Einyan von Atzeten in Teira, is der Bier Bazeh, as der Einyan am Lamed is the Sibbe, was von ihm wird besuve, wenn ihm sich das, was es kommt zu in der Mintaver Nilmud. We know, we've learned this before, that when something is learned from something in Torah, then it's not just a limud where we're learning this, we're deriving it intellectually, but it actually is the source of this idea in real life. So the Torah, the limud that you're learning actually gives the koyach for this to actually be the reality. The fact that in all the generations, in all times, a Yid is saved from a guy who's asking him where he's going, is durch dem, was in dem is veram bepnim is the derech shechiv Yankov. Because on a deeper level, Yaakov already extended his journey going to Seir, and therefore Yaakov already prepared the precaution or the protection for a Yid in every generation to be protected from the Goy. How does that work? What happened? The fact that a Goy or Goyishkeit could have control over a Yid, when the Yid conducts himself in a manner that he belongs in Golos by the Goy. When the Rebbe meant the Goy, so the Goy believes that the Yid is under his control, and therefore he could try to do things. When a Yid extends the journey, he tells the Goy, the fact that I'm here in Golos is only a stop along the way. I'm on the way, I'm on the road to the Geulah. Then Yidden are going to rule Esav. The Yid is going to rule the Goy. The Eibush is going to be the king. The fact that he's now in Golus is a preparation, a journey to the Geulah. We're still in the Aveda of refining the world. So to break through the darkness of the world, through the light of mitzvah, the candle of a mitzvah, and the light of Torah, preparing the world for the Geulah. Then when Hashem will be the light of the world, and the goyim, the nations of the world, will go by the light of Hashem. The glory of Hashem will be revealed, and the whole world will see that the Eibishter is speaking. So when a Yid has this approach that I am on the way to the Geulah, the fact that I'm here in Golus is only a stop along the way to transform the world, to break through the darkness of Golus, to illuminate the world with the light of Hashem. Then, even in the Hachana L'Geulah, we can already break the power of the Goy, a Goyishkeit. And therefore, they break the power of the Goy, and he loses his control over the Yid. And then even in Golus, there's already a state of tranquility. As noch geendik in der Aliche von derech ala Geulah, while we're still on the journey from Galus to Geulah, noch eder me kunst der Schalte von the Geulah, even before we reach the beginning of the Geulah, is Vayava Yaakov Shalom Shechem. Yaakov comes complete to the city of Shechem, and as Rashi says, Shalom begufay, his body was complete, he wasn't hurt, but Mamoinai, his assets were complete. B'tedasei, and his Torah that he had was complete. As Eden seine Briyim u'shleimim begufim kibshutei. The Eden are healthy in their body, b'mamoinam in their finances, b'ban nechayim ezeinu revicha, with children, with health, with livelihood in abundance. B'tedasam we learn Torah b'menucha, we can learn Torah peacefully. When a nefim from shalim b'tedasei, the Torah is gans. We learn Torah in a way that it is a complete Torah. We learn sign nigla the Torah sepnimis Torah. How do you get to the complete Torah? By learning both Nigla and Pnimiyas HaTorah. In our generation, Pnimiyas HaTorah was revealed in the teachings of Chassidus. In our Nathan for Torah, Achas and Torah Tmima, it's one Torah, a whole Torah. So when we realize and we display to the guy that the fact that we're in Galus is only a temporary thing on the way to the Geulah and the way to changing and transforming the world, then even before we get to the Geulah, we can already be at peace and we can already learn Torah, the whole Torah and the entire Torah and the complete Torah. When das mit Marabias Mashiach Tzedkenu, when it's mekuyim werden Kanal, der Ove Eladeni Seira, Bekiyum Hayiyud V'olu Mishim Bartzim L'Speit Tzaresav V'Hoysela Avaya Amlucha V'Meidav Imenu Mamish. When it will be fulfilled, the arrival to Seir, which is the fulfillment of, we will come to Har Tzion to judge to judge the mountain of Esav, the people of Esav, when the Eibush will be the king. May it be b'meidav imenu mamish.